The scream that left Mrs. Anthony's throat that morning didn't sound human. The nanny had only stepped out for 5 minutes. Just 5. But when she returned, the playroom was empty. The toys were scattered. The window was open. And 3-year-old Nenah was gone. The whole neighborhood was thrown into chaos. Streets were blocked. Televisions carried her photo. Missing child, the headlines read. No signs, no clues, no demands. Days turned into weeks. Mr. Anthony, once a calm and calculated businessman, shattered completely. His wife didn't eat, didn't sleep. She barely spoke. Her eyes stayed fixed on the front gate, waiting for a miracle that never came. He tried everything: private investigators, prayer houses, even psychics. But it was like Nenah vanished into thin air. She was just a baby, Mrs. Anthony would whisper into her pillow. She didn't even know how to cross the street. No ransom came. No message. Nothing. Mr. Anthony began losing her, his wife, her mind, her hope. And one night, while watching her curl up in Nenah's empty bed, he made a decision. If I don't do something, he thought, I'll lose them both. And so began a quiet plan. Mr. Anthony drove for hours that day. He didn't tell his wife where he was going. He couldn't. She wouldn't understand. Not yet. The orphanage sat at the edge of a sleepy town, surrounded by trees that looked older than time itself. Inside, babies cried softly, and weary caregivers moved from cot to cot. No names, no family history, just abandoned beginnings. He met her in the second room. She was tiny, wrapped in a faded yellow blanket, eyes barely open. But when he picked her up, something strange happened. She stopped crying. Just like that. She was left at our gate 3 days ago, the matron said. No note. No name. He stared into her face, searching, not for answers, just something to hold on to. I'll call her Amanda, he whispered. Papers were signed, no questions asked. Mr. Anthony left with Amanda in his arms, her small hand gripping his shirt as though she had chosen him. When he got home, Mrs. Anthony sat by the crib, staring at nothing. She's ours now, he said gently. His wife turned slowly, tears in her eyes. She didn't speak, but she reached out and pulled the baby close. From that night on, Amanda became their everything. Amanda never knew hunger, never knew sorrow, never heard the word no. Her world was silk curtains, marble floors, and birthday parties with fireworks. She called the cook by name and dismissed the housemaids with a snap of her fingers. What Amanda wanted, Amanda got, before she even finished asking. To the world, she was a miracle baby, the couple's second chance. To Mrs. Anthony, she was the reason she could breathe again. She poured everything into Amanda: gifts, love, dresses imported from Europe. Mr. Anthony watched in silence. He tried to guide her gently, but every time Amanda cried, her mother handed her the world. By the time Amanda turned 16, she was untouchable. Her lips carried commands. Her eyes carried entitlement. She walked into school like she owned the land it stood on. And when Amanda spoke, people listened, even if they didn't want to. One girl didn't. Her name was Mira, quiet, soft-spoken, always in the background. Wore the same shoes every term, ate alone, laughed rarely. Amanda noticed her one day and hated her instantly. She doesn't belong here, Amanda scoffed. That was the first time she humiliated Mira. It would not be the last. Mira never spoke unless spoken to. She came to school early, always sat at the back, and left before the others could whisper about her shoes, or lack of them. They were worn thin, the soles nearly detached, and her uniform always a size too big. But her eyes, those deep, patient eyes, held something not even the richest girl could buy. Quiet strength. Amanda hated it. She walks like she owns silence, Amanda sneered once, watching Mira pass by. Like her poverty is something to be proud of. One afternoon, Amanda cornered her near the school's hallway. She laughed loudly, tossing her new designer bag over her shoulder. Where do you think you're going, church mouse? Amanda mocked. Mira paused but said nothing. This school is not for people like you. This uniform? That backpack? You don't belong here. You're not one of us. The crowd around them laughed. Mira didn't. She simply looked at Amanda, nodded slowly, and walked away. That irritated Amanda more than anything. No tears, no fight, just quiet endurance. "What's her deal?" Amanda grumbled. "She acts like she knows something we don't." She had no idea how right she was. Years passed and high school faded into memory. Amanda, now 22, walked like a goddess through the city, heels clicking on marble, nails flawless, phone always in hand. She was her mother's pride, her father's beautiful mistake, and society's loudest reminder that money talks. Mira? She worked quietly at a mid-level restaurant downtown. A waitress, still gentle, still unnoticed, still folding napkins with care and wiping down tables with silent grace. Until one Friday night, Amanda strutted in, draped in gold and designer perfume, with a group of friends and one man she had secretly liked for months. Jaden, tall, charming, and just arrogant enough to be desirable. They were seated, drinks were served, and then Mira appeared, tray in hand, eyes lowered. Amanda's world tilted. "Mira," Jaden smiled. "You work here?" Mira nodded. "Evening, sir." Amanda's chest tightened. Jaden's eyes hadn't left Mira once. Amanda laughed loudly, pretending not to care. But she saw it. Everyone did. That smile he gave Mira, she had never received it. Ever. "Imagine," Amanda muttered under her breath, "a common waitress, stealing attention." That night, as Mira cleared the table with her usual grace, Amanda whispered to her mother, "She needs to disappear." Amanda couldn't sleep. Jaden hadn't called, hadn't texted, but she had seen him, just yesterday, walking into that same restaurant, alone, sitting at Mira's table. He laughed with her, tipped her, waited for her shift to end. Amanda watched from her car across the street, eyes burning with jealousy. She had always been the center, the one with beauty, money, and status. Now suddenly, Mira, the orphan waitress, was being chosen over her? "Unbelievable," Amanda hissed, her perfectly manicured fingers tightening around the steering wheel. That night at home, she threw her bag on the floor and stormed into her mother's room. "She's ruining everything." Mrs. Anthony looked up from her tablet. "Who?" "Mira, that poor girl, the one I told you about. Jaden likes her, not me." Her mother raised a brow. "He'll come around." "No, he won't. She's different. He sees something in her." Amanda's voice cracked. "We gave her too much space." There was a long pause. Then her mother sighed and stood up. "What do you want me to do?" Amanda stared her straight in the eyes. "I want her gone, for good." Mrs. Anthony didn't blink. "All right, I'll handle it." And with that, a plan was set in motion. It was raining the night the plan was sealed. Amanda and her mother sat in the back seat of a parked black SUV, the windows fogged, the air heavy with silence. Across from them sat two men, cold eyes, rough hands, and no concern for morality. "She leaves work at 10 p.m., Amanda said, sliding a photo of Mira across the seat. "She walks down this lonely path, and she's always alone." Mrs. Anthony, in a long coat and dark shades, handed over an envelope thick with cash. No questions, no mistakes. The taller man glanced at the photo, then the money. "You sure about this?" Amanda scoffed. "She's no one. She's a useless and poor orphan." Mrs. Anthony nodded. "Just make it quick." The men said nothing more. The deal was done. Later that night, Amanda lay in her bed, smiling for the first time in days. "She'll be gone by morning," she whispered. But somewhere across town, Mira was folding her apron and saying goodnight to her co-workers, oblivious to the eyes waiting in the shadows. The storm outside grew louder. So did the fate Amanda had just sealed. The night was eerily quiet. Mira walked briskly down the dim path, her umbrella flipping in the wind. Her shift had ended late, and the streetlights flickered like they were holding their breath. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her until it was too late. Two masked men emerged from the shadows. She turned. "Please!" A loud bang echoed through the night, then another. Mira's body hit the ground with a soft thud, her bag flying into the gutter. The men stood over her for a moment, then disappeared into the dark, certain their job was done. Rain poured harder. blood mixed with water, and Mira, barely breathing, lay alone on the roadside, the world spinning around her. But miles away, Mr. Anthony was on his way home from a business trip. The road was slick, his headlights barely cutting through the mist. That's when he saw it, a figure by the side of the road, a girl, unmoving, bleeding. He slammed the brakes, heart pounding. Stepping out, he approached slowly, then faster. He didn't recognize her face, only the pain. Without hesitation, he scooped her up into his arms and rushed her to the nearest hospital. Mr. Anthony paced the hospital hallway like a man possessed. The doctors had rushed the girl into surgery. They didn't ask questions, just acted. The blood, the bullet wound, the soaked clothes. It was a miracle she was still breathing. He couldn't explain why he stopped. Maybe it was the way her hand twitched. Maybe it was the way the rain seemed to cry for her. But something told him he had to pull over. An hour later, a nurse approached him. "She's alive, barely. We stopped the bleeding, but she'll need time." He nodded. Can I see her?" The nurse hesitated. "She's unconscious, but yes." He stepped into the dimly lit room. The girl lay still, her face pale, her breathing shallow. Something tugged at his chest, a strange familiarity he couldn't place. He sat beside her, took her hand. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but you don't deserve this." The door creaked open. A doctor entered to change her bandage. As he unwrapped the dressing near her shoulder, Mr. Anthony froze. A crescent-shaped birthmark, just like the one Nenah had. He stood up slowly, and for the first time in years, he couldn't breathe. Mr. Anthony leaned in, his heart racing. The crescent-shaped birthmark was right there, just below Mira's collarbone, the exact same spot Nenah had it. The shape, the curve, the faded edge, identical. He staggered back, gripping the edge of the chair. Where did she say she's from?" he asked the nurse. The nurse shrugged. "No ID. She was brought in as an unknown. But when she wakes up, we'll ask." He waited. Hours passed. Finally, Mira stirred. Her voice came out like wind through cracked glass. "Where am I?" "You're safe," Mr. Anthony said gently. "You were hurt, but I found you. You're going to be okay." She blinked slowly. "Why? Help me." He smiled faintly. "Because someone tried to take your life, and I want to find out why." Then cautiously, he asked, "That mark on your shoulder, do you know where it came from?" Mira shook her head weakly. "No. I grew up in an orphanage. They said I was found on a doorstep. No parents, no answers." Mr. Anthony stared at her for a long time, his breath caught in his throat. Mr. Anthony didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study, lights off, phone in hand. When morning broke, he told his wife everything, how he found the girl, the birthmark, the orphanage story. At first, Mrs. Anthony laughed. "That's impossible. Mira, that ragged girl, you think she's our Nenah?" But then he showed her the photo he secretly took at the hospital. The moment her eyes fell on the mark, the smile drained from her face. No, that can't be." He looked at her. "We need to go see her." They entered the hospital room together. Mira sat up, weak but alert. The moment Mrs. Anthony saw her face, her lips trembled. The nose, the eyes, the dimple that only showed when she blinked too fast. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Nenah," she whispered. Mira tilted her head. "I'm sorry?" Mrs. Anthony rushed to her, clutching her hands. "You're my daughter, my baby. You were taken from me." Mira looked at Mr. Anthony, overwhelmed. "Is this real?" He nodded, fighting back tears. "You're home." Just then Amanda walked in. Her heart stopped, staring at Mira, the girl she tried to kill, her sister. Amanda stood frozen at the doorway, her entire world unraveling. The girl she bullied, humiliated, tried to destroy, was her blood, her sister. She pulled her mother aside, her voice a frantic whisper. "Mom, that's the girl, the one we sent them after." Mrs. Anthony's knees gave out. She dropped to the floor in tears. "I tried to kill my own child." Inside the ward, Mira stared at them both, shattered. "You sent someone to kill me?" Mr. Anthony turned sharply. "What are you talking about?" His wife sobbed. "We didn't know. We thought she was just some poor girl standing in Amanda's way." Fury exploded in his eyes. "You planned a murder of an innocent girl who turned out to be our long-lost daughter." Amanda tried to speak, but he raised his hand. "Enough." He looked at Mira, pain all over his face. "I am so sorry for everything." Mira, trembling, whispered, "I forgive you." But forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. That night, Mr. Anthony kicked Amanda and his wife out of the house. Mira returned to the home that was always hers. Amanda didn't stop. Even after being cast out, she tried everything. Fake calls, hired help, even bribing servants. But no one inside the mansion would speak to her. Mr. Anthony made sure of that. The gates stayed closed, and Mira was finally safe. With nowhere to channel her rage, Amanda turned to alcohol, parties, and darkness. Each night, a new club, a new drink, a new low. One night, too drunk to see straight, she got behind the wheel. She never made it out of that tree. News of her death spread quickly. Mrs. Anthony collapsed when she heard. Grief clawed at her like a second punishment. She had lost both daughters, one to the world and the other to her own sins. Yet Mira, gentle even in pain, sat beside her silently at the funeral. Mrs. Anthony wept for days, and when she finally looked her husband in the eyes, she begged not with words but with her knees on the floor and hands shaking. It took time, but Mr. Anthony forgave her for Mira's sake. Together they embraced their real daughter, and this time they loved her with all they had. No secrets, no lies, just healing, and a second chance that was truly hers. The moral lesson of this story is that we should never look down on anyone, because destiny has a way of lifting the humble and humbling the proud.